Oh, hey everyone, we're live. How are you all? Welcome in. Good to see you. Getting the week off to a lovely start today with LinkedIn. So, come here, while you're all settling in, let's go through a small bit of housekeeping. And okay, cool. So, come here. Look, anyone who hasn't been here before, great to see you. Well done, Ken. You've got your LinkedIn profile up already. That's fab to see. I'm going to share mine in a minute. And as you all know, we're here to talk about LinkedIn. This is LinkedIn part one, so it's kind of to really help everyone get the foundations right from the beginning. And there is another session that will do some more advanced work on LinkedIn to help you understand the platform really well. But today, let's just get us started, all right? So, come here, I'm Jane. For anyone who hasn't met me, you may be joining us for the first time, thank you for coming. For everyone, some lovely familiar names in the chat there. So good to see you all back. I head up the career support. So if you haven't been coming to these sessions yet and you're just getting started, you'll be getting very used to me. So another couple of things. There's some Megan is here in the background helping us out. So thanks, Megan. And we actually have a really busy week this week. So there's today doing LinkedIn, but we have two other sessions on, and I know that Megan will be sharing some of the sign-ups for that. So tomorrow we have a super session. It's an alumni webinar where we bring back some of the obviously Code Institute alumni who will give us some tips and tricks and insights as to how their career has progressed since they moved into them. And they're really lovely. So for any of you who are sort of at that stage, it's really nice to hear those stories back. And then on Thursday, we're in the Netherlands. So we've got Relevant Online, one of our hiring partners, and Harm, who is the GM, owner, founder. He is going to come and talk to us all about not just the kind of careers that they have in their business, but just give some really nice insights to the different careers that you guys could be planning. So a really useful session. And then that's it. Just one last thing. Today's being recorded. Anyone who's not using the hub, please do email us at careers@codeinstitute.net if you want to get started on that. But today is being recorded, so this updated version of LinkedIn Part 1 is going to be in the hub for you all to look back on. So you can always come back over this information. And that's it. No, it's not. Sorry. One tiny last thing before we move on to the slides is just to remind you all, anyone who's sort of at that second project point or beyond, just a little reminder that through the hub you can book your one-to-one. So stuff like your LinkedIn profile, your CV, your cover letter, you have an opportunity to meet with us at a one-to-one. So please just don't forget to use that. And we'd love if you used it during the course rather than at the end. Don't be scared. And that's it. Okay, lovely. So come here. What we're going to do, format, guys. I can see you're all getting comfortable in the chat. I have a slide deck. I'm going to share them now, and they will take up most of the screen. And what we're going to do, like really simply, sorry, one sec. What we're going to do is go through the slide deck so that basically on a really practical basis, we can all just get started on our LinkedIn and get it off, on a good foot, get it off on a right foot, and more importantly, understand it. And then that just means that forever you can always know how to use this profile really well. And so look, time really well spent. If you don't have a LinkedIn profile yet, now's the time to kind of open it on another browser and let's get started. If you do have one, share it in the chat because we're all going to put ours in there, and we will be able to keep in touch that way. All right. So, but let's just get it right so that we know exactly what it is and why you're using it, and that will really help you get more comfortable with it as you move through this process. All right. Okay. All right. So what is it? So look, we're not going to, I'm sure we've all heard of it. Very often people, obviously it's a professional networking social media platform. It's owned by Microsoft. And really honestly, different industries will use this, really heavily, and some might not use it at all. And in my previous profession, I worked as a legal consultant, and it was only when I moved into recruitment. Now it's a long time ago now, but it was only when I moved into recruitment that I started using this. So I have been in your shoes, and I've had a job which didn't network in this particular way. So I do understand that this may feel a small bit alien, but I promise you, it's a brilliant platform. A huge amount of conversations go on this, via the job section. So if you later on you want to apply for roles, it's made much simpler. If you have your LinkedIn profile, I can guarantee you that people will use it, check you out. It's just a go-to. But more importantly than all of those things is that your network and the ability to communicate with people and companies instead of just the formal recruitment channels is going to be massively useful. And it's really good fun, actually. I think once you start getting into this, if you haven't been using it, you'll really enjoy it. And it is a mine of information about what goes on in tech. So please don't be nervous. You don't have to perform on this site. It's not like Instagram, it's not like Facebook, it's not like TikTok. It is somewhere where just kind of professional content is shared, and you can build yourself a really nice profile really quickly and have huge benefits from. So please don't be nervous about it, all right? So, like we wrote there in that lovely turquoise text, LinkedIn is your online gateway into the tech industry. There are staggering numbers of how many people use these. So, 722 million users on LinkedIn, 6 million of them are IT decision makers. And an IT decision maker is just somebody that you are probably wanting to meet along your recruitment journey, and who you're going to be working with soon. So, this is a really nice way to get to know them pretty easily. So what happens on it, right? So just to go through these kind of three main points, it's an absolutely complete platform. There are constantly new features being added to this. So there's no way for us to go through all of them. And it's somewhere where I would really encourage you to, just download the app on your phone and be on it occasionally so that you get familiar with how it works. But you can, in a really basic way, you can kind of upload your CV, you can apply for roles, you can look for roles. But in the meantime, that's not what we want you to do straight away. But in order to get there and to have, kind of to max out the usage of this, it is a community-based platform. It's a social media platform. It responds when you engage. So giving yourself some time on this well in advance of looking for roles is a really good idea. So look, on that, it's just an online professional community where you can enhance your professional reputation, and it's free. So you don't need to part with any money to set this up. And honestly, there are expensive licenses that, salespeople and recruiters buy. You can buy one if you want. I don't recommend it. I don't think you need it. But there's, it's a really well used platform. And just bear that in mind, that there are people out there who are spending a lot of money on licenses, and it only works as well as we all partake in it. So hence, LinkedIn will always reward you for using this platform well. So that's a very important sort of motif within this profile to remember, or this platform to remember. So there's a reason why they reward you, and it's in their interests. So if we can sort of understand that well, it will, it'll get you there maybe a little bit quicker. So a couple of important things. So how we've structured this slide deck is like kind of 1 to 5, just so this will really help you now if you're kind of setting this up at the moment, that you can go through it, or just like take a look at your profile that you have already and realize just how many little things in there are really important to look forward to. And so look, again, just a couple of important things to really remember about it. And the first is that the principles are similar to any other social media platform. It's very intuitive. It will bring you through. You don't have to be particularly creative here, but just to do the obvious, everything that they've put there for a reason. There's a brilliant UX on this site. There are, very clever ways of how this is laid out. So just fill it out. That's really all we need to do, and have a little look at some of the features that they're guiding you towards to do, because they bring you through it step by step. Please don't skip them. It's just a semi-filled out social media platform just looks like a neglected and unused social media platform. So it's of no benefit to you to have a kind of skeletal site where it looks like you spend no time. LinkedIn won't reward you for it, and you won't get the best out of it. So just take the 20 minutes or whatever time we have together here, and we can get this done. So yeah, just like we said there, a complete profile is important. And this is just a little tip. They edit your URL. You'll see there that you've got some nice little features that you can do. Like, for example, mine is Jane Hire Coders. So it's cute. This isn't a make or break kind of thing, but just sometimes people have these really long URLs, and actually you have the option to make it something kind of cool. So I would just take it when you have it there. So what we want to help you do during your time in getting this to sort of a really good status, so that it's really useful for you, is to reach that all-star status. So you'll notice, like I have, this is a screenshot from my account, and you can see there, it's taken a while ago, but I've 11,500 followers. But if any of you were to go onto my what do you call it? My profile now, it would just say 500 plus. All right. So basically, from the outside looking in, it's not a competitive thing about, being popular or being well connected. Nobody really knows except LinkedIn. But that 500 mark is a really important point, because it unleashes a number of features. It's where you have adequate connections in terms of, you know, being able to have a bit of a reach. And, you know, for your own, LinkedIn doesn't really know if your connections are relevant to you or not, only you know. So if you're changing careers and you have a ton of connections from, you know, your life as whatever, a barista, or your life in finance, you know, be honest with yourself and just, you know, have a little look and keep them. Don't remove people, but, you know, just be aware that the useful people for you are going to be people who are kind of working in tech. So just think ahead all the time. You know, where is it that you're going, and who is it that you want to know there? And basically, this all leads us to the reality that LinkedIn operates on algorithms and keyword searches. So the more you bear that in mind, you know, the more successful you're going to be in getting your profile in front of the people that you want to be in contact with. Okay, so I hope all that makes sense. So it's, you know, I mean, they're kind of basic principles, but sometimes we forget because in, you know, the speed of the way the world is and the time that we have, it's not always easy to remember this, but just pay attention to what it is that makes the site so valuable, and, you know, be clever about it. It's a bit like when we talk about your CV, you know, just kind of remember what you wanted to do, and it's something that I would, you know, really recommend that you put a couple of minutes into. Just from my side, it's very simple to be active on it. Like, I have the app on my phone. You can turn off the alerts if it's going to be annoying, but just for the ease, if you're sitting on the bus for 10 minutes, liking and sharing and supporting one another is something that just leaves a really nice digital trail of your sort of association with tech. Okay. So, yeah, and look, just before I go into the slide, there's just one thing as well that just to differentiate. So you've kind of two communities here in Code Institute. One is what you would call a closed community, and that's our community on Slack. And when I say closed, I mean there's over 10,000 people in there, but they are, you know, you can only be in those particular channels as a result of an invitation, or so it's, you know, it's always a slightly different sort of tone to it. LinkedIn is an external community. You're very visible to people who maybe don't know much about you yet, and that's something that I would just, you know, be aware. That's a really positive, you know, it's a really positive thing to be able to project. And you know, LinkedIn will really encourage you to do that. So just remember, you know, you're all here because you want to work in tech. So this is what we want to make clear, and we have a really nice opportunity to do this to the millions and millions of tech decision makers that are out there. So it's a lovely chance to kind of, you know, put a nice fresh message out all the time. Okay, so part one. So building a standout profile on LinkedIn. So firstly, I'll just go through those bullet points on the left-hand side because they're just kind of really nice, really obvious things. Completing everything above the fold. So above the fold is a marketing term. It basically just means what you see on the screen when you look at it. So that will be mainly the kind of the top section. This is like the main bit of your profile, the bit that everybody immediately sees before you have to do any scrolling. And just please make sure that this is fully completed. Again, this is kind of basic advice, but you would be surprised at the amount of ones that cross our paths, which have maybe a name, and then that's about it. You know, there's no photo, and anybody who comes onto it or happens upon it will probably just move off it straight away because it just looks like it's not active. So remember how much this can do for you when you're not there. When you're busy coding or you're busy working through your projects, your LinkedIn profile can be working really hard for you. So allow it, you know, just don't actively prevent it. So fill it out. In terms of the tone, obviously remember it's a friendly platform. You're leaving an impression. I can't say much more than that, but just be friendly, be nice, be professional, and remember what the end goal is for you from this. And for me, anyway, on my LinkedIn profile, the sort of end goal is to be associated with coders and for people to understand what it is that we do here and how I can help. So for you guys, I want to be able to support you in a community basis on LinkedIn. And then also I would be in contact with a lot of tech businesses who want to hire people and want to find out how to, you know, how to do that well. So just think, what if your end goal is that you want to work in tech, just remember the kind of content you want to share just wants to feed into that all the time. Location, we've written that, keep it generic. My general advice is try and just put the country that you're either in or aiming to be in. And location is a really important part, you know, of any sort of job journey, but also for obvious reasons. depending where it is that is your destination. They're the people that you want to be in touch with so that you can kind of use this platform really well. You'll find when you're filling this out that LinkedIn is regularly trying to encourage people to be very specific on their location. And to be honest, as a community, us as users aren't responding to that for a very simple reason, and that is that when recruiters or when like salespeople or people with those expensive licenses, they usually want to kind of get a bigger pool of people who have the opportunity to maybe fit into what they're looking for. So sometimes being very, very specific in the small town land that you live in might really out of bigger searches. So that would be my advice. But look, keep a little eye on it because sometimes those features can improve. But at the moment, the majority of people are getting the best results from this platform by just kind of having the country, maybe the city if you live in a major urban area, but I wouldn't go much more localized than that. Again, just remembering that end goal is the job you want, not the job that you have. And I don't mean I don't mean that in an over the person way, but let's make the assumption that most people here are planning on changing jobs soon and maybe changing industries. And want to know how this profile can help them, or sorry, how this platform can really help them do that. So just think about what it is you're moving towards. And that doesn't mean that you have to like shout out on LinkedIn every single day that you're looking to change jobs. You can do this really subtly by just using the platform well. And that's about the content that you're sharing, the content that you're engaging with, and the sort of people who you're gathering your network. So we can all start by gathering one another, and then you have access to each other's contacts. So it becomes a really simple, natural thing. And what's more, LinkedIn is highly intuitive. Once it kind of catches up with you and understands what it is you're trying to do, it'll start making suggestions to you, and that obviously speeds everything up. So we have written here in block capitals, do not speak in the third person. Please don't talk about yourself as if you're not the person who wrote this, okay? It is a very professional platform. It's also a very personal platform. This profile represents you. And even when you're in your destination company, your LinkedIn profile still represents you. But just it's really I'm sure you've seen people do this, and I don't mean to overly sort of try and influence how you present yourself, but recruiters hate it, and if recruiters hate it, then don't do it. So just speak in the first person, so it's I. Okay, you're talking about yourself, and then showcase what you're good at. And we're going to go through now and show you how you can do that. But what we're always giving people advice at the one-to-ones is about just thinking carefully about some brilliant content that you've got access to about yourself, and being comfortable talking to people about it. And that doesn't mean you have to show off. That just means that you have to share that with people. So I guess a good example here, like Jill, I see there are really nice congratulations spinning all over the chat here, which I think is something to do with you handing in a project. Is that right? Yes, congratulations. So that might be, this is kind of like a real life example, like everyone's being really like really, really nice about it. You feel great about it. It's something to celebrate, and I see you guys within this community doing this kind of stuff on LinkedIn all the time. This is a lovely opportunity where you don't have to think too much about what to put up here, but you can kind of showcase your progress and showcase that you're reaching your destination. So it's a lovely thing to see. So well done, Jill. But that's the kind of example that might work well. So the important things here to fill out in this above the fold bit, first impression, this is like if it was real life, this is when you walk into the room, profile picture, headline, cover photo, and the about bit. So your profile pic, straightforward, I'm sure you understand. So something a bit like this. It's going to be about this size. Keep it professional, just keep it clear, keep it approachable. Same as like what you would like to see when you meet a person in real life. So I would advise against big group photos or you in a nightclub or anything kind of overly intrusive, just friendly, easy, approachable, professional. The headline is kind of like on mine, it has Jane and then it has my title underneath. So that's just where you can kind of define yourself. I would, again, if you're filling this out at the moment, take a look at it and I would heavily guide you towards something clear. You should come on this and it should say junior software developer, junior web developer, something along those lines. You're not claiming, by the way, that this is your current role, but bear in mind, this is a search term that all of those recruiters with those expensive licenses are putting in order to get lists up of people that they're looking for development roles. So if you're comfortable doing that, and there's the only reason why maybe you might not be is that if you don't want your current employer to see anything too dramatically changing on your thing. I have a few remarks to make. I might leave it till the Q&A just about that, because usually it comes up in this session. But anyone else, just that's what you are now. You're a junior software developer. Cover photo is the kind of the banner photo at the back. Again, please don't leave it blank while you agonize over what to put in. Like, there's loads of options. Just take a really quick look online. Again, just get something nice and bright, and like have a look at some other people's if you're not sure of what to put there. But don't overthink this too much. Just make sure that it's a suitable size. But don't leave it blank. It just looks really neglected when people do that. And then the about section. So there's a little paragraph. Again, most people aren't going to click the read more, so you don't have to think too much about this, but this would be very similar if you've done your CV to your kind of exec summary. So 4 or 5 lines. Who's Jane? What does she do? What do I need to know about her? And that would be the exec summary, really. That's very similar to your CV. So junior developer, background in XYZ, acquiring skills in XYZ. So just to give somebody a really nice snapshot of you. So it's dead easy. And like I said, when you're setting it up, a lot of you've done this already, but it'll bring you through it, so you don't have to worry about double checking. Did you miss something? LinkedIn won't let you. It will just hold your hand the whole way through. But please just don't leave it kind of half filled out. Okay, so part 2. So the featured section. So this is as you're moving through, there's a little featured section, which is really nice and important because it's an opportunity where you can fill out some kind of personal media about you and sort of what you do. And this is the section where if you're not using it, it's going to say this has not been used for like 90 days plus. And this is something that we see a lot actually when we're doing our one-to-ones. And it's basically, if it says on your profile that you haven't been here for 90 plus days, it's not great. And the reason that it's not great is that anyone who happens upon your site who's considering sending you a quick message to see, are you interested in, either being connected on LinkedIn or maybe interviewing for a role, if you haven't done anything in more than 90 days, they just presume that you don't use it, that it's a stagnant site. There's no point in sending you a message because you're not going to respond because you're never here. And that would be a very fair assumption to make. But you can get past all of that by doing some really simple stuff here, okay? And those simple things can be literally liking and sharing. So if time is an important part of, it's an important part of everyone's day, but it's not an excuse, because all you have to do is have the app, like and share a couple of things, and then this nice featured section is going to stay active, and it's going to stay active with kind of relevant tech engagements that you're making. And you can do that with one another really easily, guys. So just bear it in mind. If you do it even once a week, at a bare minimum, it will keep this alive. GitHub, you can also put links to your GitHub, and that's why we've put that here, because again, it's a really nice, simple way to be forthcoming with people about your ability in coding and how they can check that out. So what I've seen people do really nicely is just put little links to their GitHub, and it kind of populates and illustrates in a really nice way. It looks really sharp, but it's also very obviously highly useful to have this in one place and to be forthcoming with somebody about what it is that you're up to. Articles, posts, and media. So there's tons of things you can do here, again, pretty simply, and the UX is lovely. A fully filled out site looks really fab when you land on it. So you may have time to write articles, which is great, and stuff like that is brilliant on it. But if you don't worry. All you have to do is like and share somebody else's. So that engagement will keep it busy looking. Posts and media. So look, this is where it gets really clever, because you're building all the time a really nice digital kind of imprint, a digital footprint. And if I suppose how you can do this really, really, really cleverly, if you spend a little bit of thought in it, is again associating yourself with the tech businesses in your area and showing them a bit of support. So don't be nervous about sharing content from people that maybe you don't have a personal relationship with. Liking and sharing is what helps us all to spread our news, and nobody is putting anything on LinkedIn without a purpose. It's not just for fun. It is because there's a message that we're conveying all the time. And if there's a business that you're curious about, that you're interested in, that you want to work with, the more you engage with their content, the more LinkedIn will bring you from them. So you'll find out more and more. And then also, it's a really nice imprint to have, that when you go interviewing or when you make an application and someone looks you up, which is what they're definitely going to do, they can see that this is something that you've been contributing towards and helping with for quite a long time. And I think that that's a really, really nice part of this. And just remind you that it is a community. It operates on the basis of engagement, and it is appreciated. And sometimes I forget this. There's been quite a few times recently when I've been in consultations, and people have said to me, "Oh, I feel a bit weird liking stuff." Someone put up a post from the company, but it was only people from the company that liked it, and I felt like and like a bit intrusive, or like a bit odd, being the kind of outsider sharing it. And it was something I'd never thought about like that before. And I said, no, like this is, they would love that. Like, any a company puts stuff up there to try and reach a new audience, and if they succeed in doing that, that's a positive thing for them. So it will always be appreciated. It will never be thought of as being in any way peculiar if you start liking stuff that people have put up that you don't have an association with. And also, sorry, I feel like I'm talking a lot on this slide, but also you can formulate an association with a business. There's a level of familiarity that builds up. If your name is familiar, your face is familiar, you're an active part of that tech community. And such little effort is really required in terms of time and creativity. Just by supporting what other people do will get you to your 500 plus very, very quickly. I promise you that. So just bear that in mind, that I don't accept that time is a challenge for building a good LinkedIn profile, because you can do it in 2 seconds a day. Okay, most people have a mobile phone. Okay, and then this was just to follow on from in terms of content that you can share. I'm sure a lot of you have seen some of this online, and it's absolutely brilliant. So you have lovely opportunities through the course that maybe you haven't reached yet. And if you have, brilliant. If you haven't, bear in mind that there's, that we will be bringing stuff to you that you can share, so you don't have to think too much about what to kind of make up. And a really obvious one is the hackathon. So doing a hackathon at some point, you will be able to talk about it online. There's very often swag that's shared online. And it's really nice. So, here just on this slide, you'll see there that, on one of our recent hackathons, this is just an example, like there's 5 external judges from some really nice tech companies. And they also do this because it's a community-based event, and they are keen to kind of expand their reach in the community. So they'll want to see themselves being tagged and appreciated online. And this is something that I would really encourage you to do. You'll get a massive amount of experience from doing the hackathon, but there's also other benefits to it. You can kind of use this to really propel your own profile online and your community. And then also I mentioned badges. Again, I see a lot of you using the kind of community-based badges, or like a kind of a team lead badge. There's lots of them, but they look fabulous on your profile, and they just kind of flesh out what it is that you're doing and build all those associations all the time. So yeah, okay. So just, in case you're struggling with trying to think of what kind of content to put up and kind of nervous or a bit uncomfortable with it, just keep it professional. But there's loads of stages along this journey that there'll be stuff that comes out to you. So, okay, so part 3 is the kind of the third section, obviously. And this is where you kind of, it's kind of like the CV type section, where you're filling out your job and you're filling out your work experience. And, I suppose how to do that well. So if we go with the left first, very obviously, I suppose this bit is quite similar with your CV. So please just make sure that it sort of aligns with it, that, dates are correct. There aren't massive discrepancies, that your CV looks like a totally different person from your LinkedIn profile. And then detail what you've done and how you've achieved it. So look, this is similar to the CV in that it's where you sort of outline where you've been working and what you've been doing and what those dates were, so that somebody can kind of see the journey. Obviously, it's not a CV. You don't have to put as much detail here. 3 or 4 points, I would say, is more than adequate for the roles. But just if you're deciding what to put in, again, just try and showcase it in a clever way that is similar to your CV. And we talk a lot about kind of achievement-based stuff now. So instead of listing off duties, you could kind of look at a couple of really nice outcomes that you've had in certain roles and maybe use them as a nice way to illustrate your ability. And then also, if you've been working freelance or contracting, just it's nice to keep that accurate as well. And it may answer some questions if there's a lot of kind of short-term roles that you've done, that if they were freelance or they were contract, just, make sure that that's kind of clear. And so look, in those bullet points as well there with the green ticks, just kind of make it personal. And again, that just mirrors what I meant when I was saying try and detail what you've done and how you've achieved it, and chronicling your experience. And again, just make sure that it aligns with your CV. But 2 to 3 bullet points is more than enough here. And I know that you're all going to have very different profiles in terms of a starting point. Some of you may be very early in your career. Some of you may be struggling with how to fit everything in and keep it relevant. And I suppose there's kind of a rule of 3, a bit like the CV. So if you spent a couple of years in the last few roles, probably the last 3 jobs are what people are going to be most interested in. They may not spend too much time looking before that, but just maybe give it, we're very happy, obviously, in the one-to-ones to give you kind of personalized advice on this. But if it's really, really long and you've got 10 points in every job, the likelihood of somebody actually reading that is quite slim. It's more that they'll sort of absorb the journey and understand it. And then what I have said to some people here as well is that if they've been spending, say the guts of a year studying and maybe aren't working during that time, if you want to put that as the most recent kind of experience, just make it clear that you're a student, but it keeps that relevancy there and very obvious. So there's a couple of options. And don't be afraid to look at other people's LinkedIn profiles as well. You are all LinkedIn. Sorry, pardon the pun. But this is another way. You might notice the way somebody else has done something and decide to use it that way. So don't be afraid to look at what you like on somebody else's site. But again, just like we always say with a CV, make sure it's honest and accurate, and just make sure that your LinkedIn profile kind of supports what you're saying on your CV, even if it doesn't have the same level of detail. It is important that there's a consistency there between them. Okay, so David, I did see your question, David, and I wonder, is this a good point actually, because David was talking about job titles. So anyone who didn't see the question. So firstly, David, good to have you here and a fellow recruiter. So David works in recruitment and would find it really difficult to change his job title for several reasons. So I do understand that. So what would I suggest? So I'll take a look at your profile afterwards, David. And this is the thing. I probably, if there's a level of discretion required, that obviously you're a recruiter and you don't want to be defining yourself online as a software developer. I understand that, it's not the end of the world, but what you can do is just make sure that if you're kind of missing out on being able to present yourself as that, just maybe do try and share some of your code, maybe do try and have your GitHub there. And I suppose the benefit in terms of working in recruitment is that, very often people are are quite keen to have you in their network. So hopefully maybe you're recruiting in tech, which might help you a lot around building your tech network. But I would, if you're nervous or you just can't update that section, then don't worry about it. It can be added and it can be changed later when the time is more appropriate and you're able to do that. But in the meantime, I would just pay attention to who you've got in your network, and following companies who you are going to be curious and supporting them in their endeavors, so that the kind of digital footprint is accurate and makes sense and is appropriate, but you're just not being sort of really open about it just yet. And look, it is fine because you do have time. And some of these things can get a little bit more obvious later on, but there's still behaviors here that you can do to make sure you've got some really great people in your network. Okay, so I hope that answers. So part 4. So the next section is as you move through your profile, and there's a place where you can sort of add more details around education or kind of volunteering. And oh, you're welcome, David. So this is a really nice place. Don't leave it blank. There's loads of really nice things that we can add here, and also don't be, there's a genuine curiosity in LinkedIn around, the value and the merit around that kind of social engagements that you may have, your communication, anything that kind of fleshes out you as a person a little bit is, I promise you, is of interest. So don't just neglect it that because you think it's not totally relevant. So look, again, it's very simple to populate. A couple of small tips, just it looks much smarter if when you're adding any kind of official bodies that you've maybe done a course in or done volunteering, try and make sure that you just capture their logo so that it all looks nice and smart. It's really easy to do. It should just come as a drop down, like when you type in the college. Like, for example, if you typed in Code Institute, our logo will come up. We'll be associated with the business. It all just looks nicer. And I've seen sometimes that people just haven't done that. They've just typed freehand and haven't lifted the logo. And again, look, these are small things, but if you have them all over, the profile could just look a little neglected or something. It just doesn't look wonderful, and it's really easy to make it look wonderful. So just pay attention to that. And again, all of this continual personal improvement, it ties into everything that you're doing. So, don't be shy. Take it if it's there and you're able to fill it out. And actually, sorry, Kira, that's a really nice point. So, Kira, you were updating your profile, and LinkedIn, they have a career break section. Lovely. So you can add in, exactly. So that's really, really nice. It's a really nice thing that you can sort of not explain the story to somebody, but illustrate the story to somebody. And it just means that, same as in a CV, when there's big gaps, like a recruiter is trained to look for sort of what the story is and understand the narrative. And when there's big gaps, their eyes are just drawn to it, and you end up spending a lot of time with somebody wondering about something that actually isn't a big deal, but you just haven't communicated that well. So so thanks for that, Kira. It's really good to know that, so that you can add in that kind of career transition and parenting stuff, or for whatever reasons. Okay, so one of the last sections on your LinkedIn profile is a skills section. So these are verified skills in the sense that we can't all just kind of claim that, for example, we know JavaScript, right? So LinkedIn have started building in these kind of tighter verified skill sets so that you can be found better. There's, a certain amount of legitimacy to what we're claiming. And actually, they're really, really powerful in LinkedIn. So here's some stats from last year's results on it that LinkedIn released. So adding 5+ skills show that you are 33 times more likely to get messaged by a recruiter. And 17 times more likely to get profile views. So the kind of proof is in the pudding there. And there's obvious reasons for that. So again, now that we've sort of explained how this platform works, of course, it makes sense that LinkedIn are going to reward you and put you to the top of the list if you're using their platform well, because that's how their product works. So just bear in mind, if it's kind of suggesting to you to do something, it's probably very useful for you that you do it. And what you want here is increased visibility within the community that you want to be working in. So really just how that works is that when recruiters are using their expensive aforementioned licenses, and they're putting in search words or the criteria of what it is that they want to find here, if you've been playing ball with LinkedIn, they're going to rank you higher than somebody else, which means that you're much more visible. So the kind of max you can do here is up to 50 skills. Connections, we can kind of endorse one another. Keyword searches will just help you get that visibility. And there's a skills quiz, so there's an increase of 20% being more likely to be hired. And this has been hired through LinkedIn. These are LinkedIn stats, so it just kind of goes to show that they will reward you. That's their message to you by giving you these numbers, that it's time well spent. So look, I don't expect that you're going to have time to do absolutely all of these things, and certainly not straight away. But if you just bear this in mind, you're going to be such a good user of this platform that it's going to be enormously helpful to you. So bear this in mind when you're sort of looking at them and thinking, oh God, will I fill one out or not? It is worth it. So if you can find the time, use it. And then the very last part of it is recommendations. So recommendations are a bit like a reference, and you can just ask people, it's, again, don't be shy with this. People are usually really, really generous with it. And what I've typically seen happen is that, I've seen people, giving each other references. It's really nice to see character references in a platform like this. This is all about building sort of trust, confidence, familiarity, and if you happen upon somebody's LinkedIn profile, you're reaching out to them blind, you have no personal connection with them, you are way more likely to do that if there's a lot of reasons to on the site rather than a sort of a half filled out blank page. So all of these work together to give really nice, powerful messages. You can also give recommendations, which is a really nice thing to do. So again, look, if you guys have worked with somebody in a hackathon or somebody that you've worked with professionally or have crossed paths with, you can be fairly clear with what sort of context with which you're giving them a reference, and don't associate this always with being somebody's manager. That's, there's loads of different ways. There's peer ones, there's, student ones, there's lots. But just ask. So, don't be too shy about this. And like, I obviously wouldn't ask a total stranger. It does need to be somebody who's in a position to sort of give some insights. But as your career progresses, there's loads of ways that you can kind of populate this. And they are nice. It is nice to see them. So yeah, so take a look at that. And then I think that's the last slide. So we're going to jump into Q&A now in a couple of minutes. So stick your questions in if you have some. But just to sort of, I suppose, to know where you are now, having spent some time looking at this, hopefully you kind of quite understand how to not just set this up well. Like, this is not a static place, but we're going to talk more at the more advanced stages of LinkedIn about how you kind of use this and build a really good network. But your profile as an absolute, like, step one, you just, in the last half an hour, you could have done more than somebody else has done in a year. So you can have a really nice standout profile. It'll work for you in the background when you're really busy doing other stuff. And then later on, when it comes to the point that you want to start applying for roles or you want to start looking at what kind of companies you want to work with, like, this will be sitting here waiting for you. And it's a superb way to talk to a real person, and use that kind of hidden jobs market. It's places like this where it's active. So it's just such a shame when you have access to this and a really nice network in amongst, even just from the Careers Hub, to get started with, that you can start building that. And then look, one other thing that I would say to you as well is that the hiring partner webinars. So I know you may all be at totally different stages, but on the advanced masterclasses and the advanced part of the Careers Hub, really what we want you to do is, have had your one-to-one with us, have got these documents in good shape so that you're really familiar with just, all of your skills and attributes, and that you're getting familiar with this gradually rather than putting a lot of pressure on yourself overnight to try and kind of do all of this at once. But what's really nice is that when you come to those hiring partner webinars, you can just be adding everybody on LinkedIn. And I'm sure a lot of people here have been at them. And certainly I know from looking at the chat that your names are really familiar. But just bear that in mind. If you have this done well, it's so useful because you can just build your network and tap back into it when you want something from it. But it is a community-based network, and if you don't kind of support anybody in it and are invisible there and then want it to work for you, it's going to take a bit of time to build that up. Okay, so some Q&A. Okay, oh my goodness, it's 1:45 already, so we've only got a few minutes left, guys. So I'll just go from the most recent one. So Lisa, hi Lisa. So Lisa keeps getting offered for the month's free trial for premium. When would be the best time to try it, as you're not going to be actively searching for a job until September? So yeah, so in case anyone doesn't know what Lisa's referring to, so premium is one of the paid licenses and they offer it to you for free for a month. So what a lot of people do is use it for free and then don't forget to take your credit card details off because you probably don't want it, but you can use that free month. And I think in terms of timing, Lisa, in terms of timing, I don't really know what to recommend to you because your network is, the sooner you get it, the more useful it is because you can help it. And then when you want to start asking favors of it, it's better if there's been a bit of time. But what I would say is if you're going to be using the free trial premium for a month, pick it at a time when you have time to use LinkedIn quite heavily. So what would be a real pity would be if it was a really busy month and you're bogged down in a project and you're going to be putting minimal time into this, to use your free month when you could be using loads of features and gathering really, really good network. So I would sort of guide you more on the time when you've got some time to commit to it. It's never too soon. And if you try and build up a network overnight really quickly, like the day before you start job seeking, you're not going to get the most out of it. So I'd be a massive advocate for building up your network and then, kind of working it before you want to actually kind of start pulling some, not favors, but being more, active within it. Hope that helps. Hope that wasn't too convoluted answer, Lisa. But you're very welcome. But I hope that kind of makes sense, that, your network will be there forever. You'll always have it. And the sooner you have it, the more you're going to get out of it. Um, so okay, so just while I'm sure there's a couple of questions going to come in. So, but Megan, thank you, was running a couple of polls. So, oh my God, cool. So maybe you haven't all answered this yet, but at the moment, 100% of you feel more comfortable making changes to your profile. So look, I'm really glad to hear that, because, sometimes we would be talking to people who are, really nervous about this, and, kind of shy about it. And I do understand all of that. But like the how do I word this? Like what you're doing in this network is, it's personal to an extent, but mostly it's professional. And I suppose what you need to sort of try and bear in mind as well is that everybody is happy to build a network. And also, the content and the information that you'll be able to gather here will actually make you feel more confident and more comfortable when you go to an interview, because there's a lot that you're going to have here, and there's a lot of information that you can make up about a business before you ever walk into an interview room. So if you're nervous about it, and there's a certain level of shyness about it, I do understand that, but please don't think that you have to come up with some ingeniously entertaining content about yourself. You really don't. Like, liking and sharing will get you a long way. So it'll, a lot of those algorithms will work quite well, even with a low level of engagement. But really, in a similar way to other platforms, it's more the kind of little and often that works way better than trying to cram all this the night before and, having a lot to take in. So little and often, just allow yourself to download the app, turn off the notifications. And when you're sitting, maybe having a cup of coffee at lunchtime or a glass of wine at the weekend, just look at a couple of things and like them and share them. And give yourself the confidence of the sense of achievement. Like Joel, when you're moving through your different projects, these are really nice celebrations. It's a really nice positive message. It creates a lovely digital paper trail of your progress. And these things are wonderful optics when you go interviewing and have a bit of a story to tell. Okay. So Samuel, hi Samuel. So do I have any thoughts on the skills assessments, such as when should I feel confident to try them, as I have to place top 30% and then you get 2 attempts with the looks of it? Yeah, so the skills assessments, that they are really useful. And I was actually honest, to be honest, I was quite, taken aback by those statistics, which I'll just pop up on the screen there again. I was really surprised. They're pretty impressive stats. And I suppose it's very obvious that as you are verified by LinkedIn, they are obviously going to put you before people who are not verified. So I would take a look at them and I would pick the ones that you want to have. And yeah, Samuel, I think I would definitely guide people to try and do that as they feel more and more comfortable with the various skill sets that they have. Like, don't waste your efforts in trying to get them if it's very genuinely sort of just slightly out of your reach. But once you get there, just give it a go. You've a couple of attempts to do it, so you'll know very quickly on the first one how far away you are, and then do the practice. So yeah, so probably at the more advanced stages. But ideally, if you can do them before you're kind of job seeking and really actively prioritizing recruitment, these are really nice ways to kind of spend your time and enhance your skill sets. But yeah, but it's time. They're definitely time well spent, and those statistics are nuts. 33% more likely to get messaged by recruiters is a pretty big number. Okay, so I hope that helps, Samuel. Okay, cool. Well, look, let us just check. Where are we? So, come here, we're at 10 to, so we've literally just got a couple of moments left. So, if anyone has any questions and wants to put them in now, go for it. I just realized that I never put my LinkedIn profile in here, so I'm really sorry. Bear with me one sec, and I am going to pop it into the chat. And then that means that all of you can stay in touch with me really easily. And you'll see what I mean as well by my little URL, which is what I mentioned at the beginning there. Here, I'll put it in the chat. So you'll see now, instead of it being a big, massive URL, and I see that a lot of you have changed yours, so good on you. Oh, why isn't it come up? There you go. Oh, there it is. It came twice. Okay. So you'll see there, it just says Jane Gormley hard coders. So there are just some of those nice little kind of handy things that you can do, which just kind of tighten it up and verify those messages. But look, I'll be expecting a huge amount of new LinkedIn profiles now. But look, just to summarize, so well done. I'm really glad. I'm hoping that a lot of you who maybe haven't been so comfortable with using this platform have a better idea now of, how you can set it up and just, I suppose, just showcase yourself really well and remind yourself about how much power this has in the background. And I don't a really good follow-up to this is obviously LinkedIn part two, but also the hidden jobs market. And a statistic that we share in that is that 70% of roles on an annual basis never get advertised. And this is not because people are trying to be tricky or covert or secretive about their jobs that they're advertising. It's because a lot of jobs get a lot of jobs get hired on from networks. And so if you remove yourself from this platform or don't engage with it, it's just such a shame because there's a huge amount going on there between individuals. So if, for example, me here, maybe somebody might message me at some point and talk about wanting to work as a recruiter. And the amount of conversations that start like that so beautifully. And at the alumni webinars, we hear a lot about this when people were sort of, as they got more comfortable and confident with using this as a platform, realize that conversations can lead to interviews. And sometimes this is going on all around us and it never gets put in a jobs board. And it's a really normal way to sort of engage with the industry. And look, don't be frightened of it. And again, obviously, all of you can avail of getting a chat with us on a one-to-one to sort of just ask any of those sometimes slightly more tricky or a bit complicated questions of how do you present yourself on this if it's not a really linear path. So we don't worry about that. Dan, just don't worry about it too much. There's not a fixed formula, but there is a recommended way to profile yourself. And just like, was it David earlier on? Where have you gone? Yeah, David, like when you were talking about not wanting to change your job title, I know that there's sensitivities there, so we have to be kind of discreet, but there's still loads of ways this platform can work really well for you. Okay, and then last question from Lucas. Hi, Lucas. So how does one book a one-to-one meeting? So one does that through the Careers Hub, and the point with which we recommend that you start thinking about doing this is post project 2. So once you've handed in that project, that's a really good time to make sure that we've attended to your recruitment documents, that we have them in good shape, you've had a consultation so that you can start using your time. But any point, we wouldn't recommend you do it earlier than that. But in a perfect world, we certainly wouldn't recommend that you leave it much longer because it's better we've had a conversation and you don't really have to do anything other than get those documents ready. If anybody here is not using the Careers Hub, please email us on careers@codeinstitute.net. That's just careers@codeinstitute.net. Obviously, you can find us on Slack as well. And then everything through the Careers Hub will really help you because we've just laid it out in a really linear way and you can come back and look at these videos on demand whenever you like. So Lucas, I guess we'll be seeing you soon in a one-to-one. But lovely. And look, there's some lovely feedback there. So thank you. Thanks, Ken. So Ken is looking at LinkedIn in a different light after this. Well, I'm really glad to hear that. And you're going to end up loving it. I have converted so many people to this platform over the last couple of years. And look, I promise you, half an hour, put in your headset, turn off everything else, give yourself half an hour, and the time that you spend doing that could save you weeks at the other end. So it's a really good investment of time. Okay. All right, cool. Well, look, it's coming to 5:02. I'm conscious. I know that we never want to run over things. There are some really nice polls going on there. Do we have them all? Megan, if I press end on that. Okay, so you all feel more comfortable making changes. Well, look, I am thrilled with that. It's a really good use of all of our time doing this together. And look, so if you're doing these in a linear fashion, the next one is cover letter writing, I think. So much more creative way of talking about yourself, but I'll see you next week at that. And then don't forget, we have 2 more events this week. So we're really, really busy. Alumni tomorrow, I would heavily encourage you to go to it and listen to their tips. And there's the cover letter writing. next Monday. But before then, we're in the Netherlands on Thursday with Relevant Online, and they'll be telling you all about the types of careers that you could have, not just with them, but in general. So it's a really, really useful thing if you're at that kind of planning stage that you want to know more about what your options are. Come along, and Harm, who's the founder of Relevant Online, is going to tell us all about that. Okay, cool. It's 5-2. Listen, guys, deadly to see you all. Super. I love these seminars and I love getting used to all your names. So thank you so much for your time. See you all on LinkedIn and enjoy your afternoon. Thanks. Bye.